Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sunshine State Happy Hour, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com and Lager Layover Podcast. Just got some good news today that we are going to be reigniting that, which I'm very happy to hear. And it's going to be a great piece of news for our guests. Over the past couple of weeks, we have been featuring podcasts from the Hopped Up Network, such as Lager Layover, which is the sister podcast of the Florida Beer Podcast, which is the sister podcast to FloridaBeerBlog.com, all of which you can find at FloridaBeerBlog.com or wherever fine podcasts are found. Anyways, all of those podcasts have been featured on the Hopped Up Network, and today we have the Hopped Up Network finally on the show. Eric Bracken, who is talking to us from New Jersey, as most of the podcasts on the network seem to be from, which is kind of funny, the New Jersey, New York sort of area. Eric, thank you so much for coming on Sunshine State Happy Hour.
Guys, thanks for having me and finally being able to do this. It's pretty awesome. Seeing you guys and putting a face with the voice and everything is like pretty cool.
Yeah, I will say that's the one thing that's funny about this is you listen to all these podcasts and you get the mental image of who these people look like and which they always look like are never the thing. Steve, how you doing? Looks like you're one-upping me in terms of studio space.
Sipping away.
It's beautiful outside. We got a nice breeze tonight. I'm going to set the cornhole board up when we're done. I got a cooler full of beer sitting here waiting for dinner to be ready.
You're outside in your parking lot?
I'm sitting behind my car. I actually have a parking lot bar that I started in my apartment complex.
Awesome.
I will say the parking lot bar is a beautiful thing. My wife and I experienced it last week, and I have the bug bites to prove it. So if we do the parking lot bar this weekend, which I think is going to happen because we've got some stuff to discuss with one of our sponsors, we have already purchased more bug spray.
Good.
Which works. So I know if you've got a cooler full of beer next to you, Steve, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking my last Sun Viking IPA from 81 Bay Brewing in Tampa.
Yep. You got some good stuff.
It is.
They have some great stuff. And then, Eric, what do you have for us?
I got from the Off Color Brewing, I have Very, Very Far Away, which is pretty damn awesome. It's a good beer.
Excellent. What style is it?
It is. Crap! Can't even read the can. Might be like a barley wine style.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So it's actually pretty good. It's a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I sort of grabbed, and what I ended up grabbing was a very wonderful New England IPA. This is from Black Flamingo, which is a brewery down by us that has changed ownership a couple of times. And if I can get somebody on the record to describe the story about how that happened, it's quite juicy. I don't totally know all the details myself, but gosh darn it, I'm going to be trying to do that as much as I can.
And what's this? You like Yard's beer? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh man! So I was just gonna say, because you're in New Jersey, but you're across the river from Philadelphia,
right?
And I've been to Philadelphia a couple of times.
Okay.
And there's a lot of great beer in Philadelphia.
Yes, there is.
But the Ales of the Revolution series from Yards is one of my absolute favorites. And if you don't know what that series is, it is a series of 3 beers. Each beer was a direct descendant of or very closely inspired by the beers that somebody from the Revolution actually drank. So I'm trying to pull it up right now.
So you're drinking history then?
Yeah, absolutely. And
okay.
It's all right. Every single one of them is spot on. I mean, Yards just basically hits everything out of the park, which is phenomenal. So let's take a look. There's got 3. They're basically 3 in the series.
Okay.
Poor Richard's Spruce Ale is kind of based on Benjamin Franklin's original recipe. I'm pulling this up on their website, and it's an amber ale with spruce tips.
Okay, which is yeah.
And I love spruce because it's one of those ingredients that very few people put into beers, but if you know how to put it into a beer, it is exquisitely done. Washington's Porter, which is sort of had a little bit of history based on a recipe that George Washington had written.
Yep.
Talking about the beers that his soldiers enjoyed. And then the last one is a golden ale that was brewed, which is similar to a recipe that was brewed at Monticello with Thomas Jefferson. So it's Jefferson's golden ale. Every single one of them is fantastic.
Wow.
Every single one of them. And of course, being a Philadelphia brewery, I can't get it down here, which makes me sad.
Now, so is that a series? Like, does it come?
Yep.
Is it out all the time? Or?
Yeah, the Revolution.
Okay, all right.
And it actually comes as a 12-pack, 4 bottles of each.
Wow.
So it's definitely. I mean, Philly's got a lot of phenomenal beers.
Yes, they do.
Manayunk is incredible. But I was going to say, just across the river, I was there for maybe an hour and a half. Unfortunately, the last time I was there.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what kind of stuff do you have down there? Because we've spoken to some people that are very South Jersey, and we've spoken to a lot of people that are just over the river from New York City. You're sort of in the middle on the West Coast or the west side of the state.
West side. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's tough doing the New York breweries. We like going across the bridge to Philly. It's about 30 minutes from us, but we primarily stick to the South Jersey, Central on down kind of breweries kind of deal. We like going over to the city and everything. Parking becomes a problem, and also driving. So, I mean, you got to be careful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about with all the breweries that are sort of in, both Philly and South Jersey, how are they doing with the current coronavirus pandemic going on? Have you heard of a lot of people that may not be coming back, or what's sort of the temperature there? No pun intended.
We've heard stories. There's 146 breweries, I believe, right now, or give or take a few. That was on New Jersey Craft Beer website that we have that's available. Those that have closed because of the pandemic, you haven't really heard too much of. We are trying to patronize all the breweries that we can that are local. Mm-hmm. There's like one of Marlton Zed's beers. There's Berlin Brewing. There's we drove up to Cream Ridge, which is about 40 minutes away, to Screaming Hill, which is a farm brewery. We're seeing that there's one about 45 minutes, an hour away, that's going to have their 3rd anniversary on Saturday, Manafurkin, which is one of the the good breweries that's around us kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And we're just trying to pick up beer and make orders as much as we can and support those guys because we want them around. We want them around for later.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. On either side of the river, I guess, which has been more receptive to opening first? Which are you hearing more rumors and murmurs and, hey, we're open for 25% capacity and so on and so forth from?
Right now, New Jersey was just talking about doing a reduction on the, to be able to open up a little bit more businesses. It doesn't really affect the breweries that we're seeing too much. Mm-hmm. We've traveled across the river to like Naked Brewing. We traveled across the river to River Horse and Moss Mill, and they have been receptive to setting up their tents and setting up their tables. And it's a definite no contact. You do your credit card, you do what kind of vehicle you're driving, and you pull up. They put it on a table, get out, or they'll bring it to you and put it right in your car. It's actually nice. It's actually easy to do. But we're not seeing too much between the two. We're seeing a lot of a rise in when Pennsylvania had closed down their state stores, we saw a lot of rise at the businesses at the local liquor stores across the bridges. We're about 15 minutes from Philly, so you see a lot of Philly tags, Pennsylvania tags in the liquor stores, but you got to do it, you know. And they've since relaxed those laws too, that you can order online and things like that. But it's evolving every week. Yeah, everything's different.
It's got to be difficult, especially since obviously you've got New Jersey, you've got Philadelphia, and you're pretty close to Delaware, if I remember my billboards correctly.
Yeah, 40 minutes to 1 hour maybe.
Okay.
Some of the breweries down there are destination breweries that if we take a week, not a weekend trip, but a Saturday, get up early, go have lunch, go do a brewery down in Delaware, that kind of deal.
Gotcha.
Even Pennsylvania, if we can hit two breweries, if we can hit a brewery in the morning, early afternoon, not morning, but early afternoon, and then go to one in the later afternoon and have dinner somewhere, it becomes our destination breweries.
Okay, that's perfect. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I definitely know on the Philly side, I don't remember as much on the New Jersey side, but with Philly, actually with Pennsylvania period, it seemed that almost every brewery had a kitchen, and I guess could technically classify itself as more of a brew pub than a brewery. Has that been good in helping them sort of stay open and creating more products for people to purchase and then leave with?
My opinion, I think so, because over in Jersey, it's tougher with the food. The restaurants, frown upon the breweries opening up with food because they think of it as a competition. That sounded good.
Yeah.
And Philly, it's Pennsylvania. You can go get some food kind of deal, drink, bring what you have home kind of deal. But it actually changes things. A lot of breweries earlier, before all this started, talked about going to Pennsylvania because of the laws in New Jersey kind of, set the precedence that, hey, we can go have, a place where we brew and then a place where we can sell beer and food at a different spot. So business wise, it made a lot of sense. And I hate to hear it, but I mean, I don't want to see Jersey lose a lot of the breweries that we have now or the business that we have now. There's a lot of things that have grown up around the brewery business, as you guys have seen, such as like brew tours. Just different things. Bring in, not revitalization, but bring in new business to a small town that might not have had the business there before, or might not have been able to have a draw, such as a brewery, such as a pizza parlor, such as a crab house or something like that. We've seen a lot of that open up around the breweries that have dug their heels in and made their home.
No, that makes perfect sense, and it is going to be good once all this is over. But let's hope that these businesses can maintain afloat as much as they can before we get to that point.
And that's the thing. You got to support your local. You got to make sure that, if you go into a place to get your pickup beer, or if you get a curbside service, make sure you tip those people. I mean, that is, their bread and butter. That's what they do. And, if I was sitting at a brewery, I would tip when I was done at the end of the evening. So, I mean, it's the same thing that they have to do. We all got to start doing.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So let's change gears a little bit. I know I found out about the Hopped Up Network when I was in Arizona, and I was listening to That As, or AZ, or however he wants to pronounce it. I can never tell.
Eric is awesome.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And we have had the chance to, on this show, interview quite a few other podcasts. I know Cheers Charlotte is going to be on hopefully sometime soon. We had a little
great bunch of guys. Yep.
Yesterday we were on with both Better on Draft and Brew Chat. And that was an interesting show.
See, guys. Yep, we watched it, and They are some really good guys.
Yeah.
I've reached out to all of those, or a few of those guys, on things to run the podcast show. What do I need to do to get more podcasts to the network? A lot of those guys have been helpful. South Jersey Beer Scene. The podcast that I'm on is Jersey Beer Guys and a Girl.
Okay.
And those guys, who else am I trying to think? Oh, the Wart, the guys up in New York.
Yeah, the Wart's been on the show as well.
Yep. Excellent guys, excellent help.
And it's interesting to see the breadth of locations and styles of podcasts. So I will sort of start at the beginning. How did you get the idea for the Hopped Up Network? How did this sort of get created? And what kind of shows can people interested expect to see on the network? Expect to hear, because they are podcasts.
Well, it started a few years ago. It really started when we started doing the Jersey Beer Guys podcast. We all did our podcast. I think we're up to 50 some episodes on that part of it. There was a couple guys from Indiana. I don't remember the names right now, but they wanted to sell Hopped Up Network, which we were on. It's a collaboration of a bunch of independent beer podcasts in one location. These guys' idea, which we're going to continue with, is to be able to put all these craft beer podcasts at one location. So if you want to go to Texas with like Three Beers In, or Charlotte with those guys, or Arizona with Tap That Ass, we want you to come to one location and be able to click on what you want to do and what you want to hear. What's the hotspot? Say I'm going on vacation in Arizona. What's the hotspots in Arizona that, myself from New Jersey, what's going on there? So you listen to Eric and his podcasts. There was a couple that we're trying to bring back. There's a Pacific Beer Chat. As we're starting to get more recognized, I took over doing this probably in August of last year. So I'm kind of the new guy of doing the social media and promoting these guys and pulling everybody together. The goal is to have as many craft beer podcasts that I can put on the website. And one of our big draws in New Jersey was the Atlantic City Beer Craft craft show, beer festival. And we wanted to promote all the people that come to that, whether it's brewers, whether it's your farmer, whether it's your distributor, whether it's your brew tour guys, and just embrace what craft beer is about. And you can see it over some of the guys, like and how they do their different styles. Like there's a Drunk Guys Book Beer Club that go through and they do classic books, and that's what they like. Anything to do with music, we just want to do 50% beer on the podcast and talk with whatever you want. We don't own any of the content, and it's just to have fun. It's I don't know if you want to call it a hobby, but it's kind of a hobby. But we want to promote you guys. We want to promote craft beer, and we want to promote everybody that's involved with it. Look at how much the can art has like increased. On different things of giving these people jobs.
I know Steve was very happy last week. He had won a very elaborate unicorn
from Pipeworks.
From Pipeworks. Okay.
Blood of the unicorn. It was just ridiculous looking.
And all the stuff that's grown up around the breweries. We've tried to watch it, and I started out with, there was a Cedar Creek Brewery down in South Jersey is one of the first breweries, and then River Horse when they were located in Lambertville, New Jersey, which they've since moved and grown. But that's what we're embracing. We're embracing the breweries, the people, and talking to the brewers when we do our podcast. it's amazing how they say they don't have a job. They're doing what they like, which is like pretty cool. Like I have a job, I go to it, 7 to 3:30 every day. But these guys are like, yeah, we built this. What's our next project?
Yeah.
Coming to think about the guys down at Bonesaw down in Glassboro, New Jersey. Those guys built their however many dollar brewery, and they're looking for the next venue. Like, okay, now we did this. What's next? Um, just talking to the people is to the brewers and the people involved, even your servers, of how they perceive craft beer. It's wild.
Well, and I guess my concern, because I've been a blogger for over 5 years, and I've been doing the podcast thing for about a year, probably more. I don't actually remember. It's been a little while, but I know I've got two, and possibly some other stuff is coming.
Right.
When speaking to breweries, when speaking to the media people and the owners and whatnot, what kind of a reception do you usually get? Do you get a lot of people that are very interested and happy to share, or is there still a lot of assumptions that either we are in it just for free stuff or that we are not important enough to waste their time with?
The brewers that we find here are very into their craft, if I could call it that. They're into a lot of these guys around our area have started as home brewers. I don't know the count, but I'm going to say off the top of my head, there's 15 home brewers that started out that are now running their own breweries. Zed's in Marlton, and there was like a list of guys that they went through. I don't know if you call it brewing school or, cutting their teeth, but now they've all branched out and they have their own breweries, and they're more than happy to tell you about what they're doing, how they're doing it. They're involved with the state. Lower Forge in Medford is very involved with the state and what the politics are of craft beer in New Jersey. Those guys are like, hey, this is going through legislation. We got to vote on this. This isn't right. We got to get a petition signed for, this and that. There's the other aspect of the women in brewing, such as Backward Flag, Tori from Backward Flag, which is a veteran. The Pink Boot Society, which is all over the place. I mean, from Philly, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've got Pink Boots down here as well. Our area actually has a female-centered beer festival every year.
Right.
That I was very excited to be a part of. So that's wonderful. But please continue.
I mean, there's a lot of women that are behind the scenes. There's a lot of women business owners that you don't think of. I mean, what are we talking? I forget what the percentage of women drinking beer is. I'm going to say it's 40%, which is a big market, which is a great representation. There's the one brewery that we go to, it's a husband and wife. And you see they're bickering back and forth of, well, he said to do this, but I'm going to go and do this. And it works for them. So, I mean, it's actually, pretty great on what they do as a business and what we say. They've given up their full-time jobs to do this, to do the brewery. I mean, like I said, Lower Forge was, I believe, a mother and son. And the mom took her retirement funds and said, let's do it. And their background was, fantastic for opening up a brewery for what they were doing. But look, they're involved in politics. So, I mean, they're looking out for the big picture.
Yeah, it's amazing how many husband or wife, and we have a mother and son brewery here in Florida, or brothers or something like that, whole families that get involved with them, and they really are, family operations. These are not multinational conglomerates. These are your neighbors that are doing things, which is why supporting them and making sure that they stick with us through this is so vitally important, kind of like you mentioned.
But Florida is also a different monster for the craft brew system because our laws are in place that help foster that more.
Okay.
Hinder it as much. Whereas I know Jersey's kind of strict on everything they do.
Yeah.
And even more to the Midwest too, with some of those old Bible Belt blue laws that have been around for, how many years now, that really have no need to be there anymore.
Do the Florida laws actually help the breweries as far as a business and as far as doing what they're doing, or is it?
From what I've seen, I work for the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I've seen a lot of the city officials using breweries to help revitalize rundown areas of the city.
Yes.
You slap a brewery in there, it cleans up the whole area. It invites more businesses in. And they're using it as that type of a tool to help out and make things better.
Is it like cities that are like kind of forgotten? It was like your Main Street USA, and then all of a sudden
there's a few breweries
rolls
like
in there
that popped up.
Okay.
We were very lucky in that last week. We actually spoke to a few of them.
Yeah.
Steve's family is in High Springs, Florida, which is north of Orlando, north of Ocala. Yeah.
Okay.
They just opened up. So they've been sort of in the process of that revitalization. And then about an hour and a half north of them is a place called Lake City. And they had very little. And their brewery, Hull Patter, has not only led an amazing revitalization of their downtown location, but they've become one of, if not the hottest breweries in the northern half of the state.
Has there been any opposition from like local restaurants as saying like here we have hey, they can't sell beer because of liquor licenses we have here. I paid $300,000, just quoting numbers. I paid $300,000 for a liquor license to be able to serve beer and food. A brewery comes to town, does whatever they're doing to be able to get their license to brew, which I'm pretty sure there's not that big of a money associated with it. And what happens is the restaurants will go against a brewery isn't open the hours that they're opened, that a restaurant is opened. The brewery does not serve food. If the brewery closes at 8:00 and I need to get a beer that's served and I'm drinking at a brewery, I would like to go to a restaurant and be able to get that beer, but they're not embracing a lot of restaurants early.
They're not working together like they should be, and they're really working against each other.
Correct, which they butt heads because of money. I'm not sure, a lot of the details. Like I said, I'm speaking off the cuff on a couple things, but I mean, we have a guy that owns a restaurant, and he was against, the breweries and the local breweries, but in order to go into his restaurant and ask for a brewery beer, he has to adapt. And he has been adapting. He's not happy about it, but he is adapting. Because hey, if I want, from a brewery like in close to us is Zed's in Marlton, and I want to go and I want to have a cheesesteak or chicken wings at your place watching the game, why don't you have my favorite brewery on tap?
Yeah,
and it's money for him. I don't know a lot of logistics on the money part of it, but it's an argument.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it's frustrating, and hopefully we will be able to deal with that pretty soon, unfortunately. But I am going to leave you with the same question that I've been leaving everybody, in that obviously breweries have had to make a number of changes to survive the current situations. You mentioned a bunch of them yourself. Hopefully this will not be our normal for the rest of our lives, and hopefully sometime soon
I'm tired of wearing masks.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully we will be able to get back to normal soon. Once that happens, what changes have you seen, or is there any significant change or adaptation that you have seen that you think should be a part of brewery life from here on out?
I listened to the guys last night.
It's the same question I asked them.
We talked about this earlier today, that the breweries making deliveries or breweries being able to, to go in and like, it's almost like a drive-by brewery. Back in, we were talking back in the 80s, we had local liquor stores that delivered to in our town. We were underage, and I hope nobody's listening. We were underage, but we made a call, to a buddy, and he'd bring a keg by. Has that changed? Yeah, a little bit. I'd like to see the breweries still do the curbside, but I miss going into a brewery. I miss going into a restaurant. So yeah, the changes. I know the gentleman from Brew Chat talked about the sippy bags.
Yeah,
and we'll have to see how that goes. That would be cool.
I have yet to experience a sippy bag, and I really want to now.
there is actually, Steve. There's a place you have been to, Dixie Bar and Grill has
Dixie
sippy
Bar and
bags.
Grill.
Yeah,
Nice.
But that would be like so cool to have a cooler full of those,
right?
And like you said, to be able to walk around. But the problem we have is you got to keep the kids out of them because they go, oh look, a juice pouch, and they're popping a straw in it.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense. Awesome. Eric, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to be getting more Lager Layover out to the Hopped Up Network and everything else, and hopefully we'll get some new shows coming up on the network. It's worth follow. If you're on Instagram, follow Hopped Up Network. It's probably the best place to get every new show that comes out, and you are a very busy person when it comes to all those new shows.
I will try and promote whatever I can, because it's not about me, guys. It's about you guys. It's about you guys and what you're doing as far as making these podcasts, producing these podcasts, making these videos and everything like that. It's about you guys. It's not about me.
Awesome. That's great to hear. It's always great to have people that are able to promote and really appreciate what those podcasters are doing. And obviously you keep going with Jersey Beer guys as well.
yeah. We'll keep on keeping. Trust me.
Nice.
We love doing it.
Good. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting show on the Sunshine State Happy Hour. We have Colin Presby. He's been on the podcast and on the blog a couple of times, as he is the brewmaster for Carnival Cruise Lines. He, like everybody else, is sidelined in central Pennsylvania, his hometown. So we're going to be chatting with him, and we may have a special guest co-host to show up as well. I'm trying to see if he has responded, and he hasn't, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, we are on every weekday at 6 p.m. our new time on facebook.com/FL Beer Blog. Find us at Lager Layover or at Florida Beer Blog. Either Instagram or Twitter account works just fine. Make sure to reach out. We are also on Florida Beer Blog. Eric from Hopped Up Network, thank you so much for coming on the show. Steve, I'm happy that it worked out well for you. You go play that cornhole, okay?
One car came by with loud, obnoxious exhaust, so it wasn't too bad.
Steve's got an awesome spot outside.
Yes, he does. I openly hate him right now. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. And we will see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Cheers.